Under my captaincy, I think the numbers would say yes. Um, but I think there's good lessons for us to learn. We weren't good enough. We expected it to be tough coming here. We know the Sri Lankan spinners are very, very good, especially in their own conditions. Yeah, but we weren't up to par. So we need to make sure we get better if we want to try and compete in this series. If we don't, then Sri Lanka will be on top of us. Yeah, I think it's just a case of our batters are trying to somehow put pressure back on the quality of the spin bowling that Sri Lanka do have. So there's two ways of looking about it. There's one is to try and sit it out and try and bat for as long as possible. But with that, then you're not putting pressure on the opposition. So I think, as you rightly say, there was probably one or two more expansive shots that we would normally play. But the thinking behind the batting was just to try and put some pressure back on the bowling, because they don't give you anything, and that's the quality that the spinners have over here. So if you just sit there the whole day, then you're also not going to score runs. But there has to be an element of what is a medium risk compared to a high risk shot, especially on the wickets that we're playing, with the ball stopping a little bit more than we used to. So it is lessons that we can learn, but we weren't good enough in this game, and Sri Lanka showed us why they were better. As I said in the post-match now, if you look at the one innings that Gururatne played, if you take that out, the rest of the game was pretty similar. There was one or two batters in the batting lineup that found it a little bit easier, and then the rest didn't. So there's the motivation for us that, if you can make sure that you keep getting wickets. It is tough coming in. I think that's the biggest difference playing in the subcontinent, is when you do lose a wicket, that next 5 overs becomes tricky. You need to make sure you get through that. And he was there the whole time for them in the first innings. Scored more than half of the runs of their total. So he was fantastic this game. And as bad as we were in our batting, he was very, very good. Look, it would be nice to have that, but we've also found a great spinner, which I'm very proud to have him in my team. Maharaj has been a fantastic bowler for us. I thought in the first innings he wasn't at his best. It shows that he also needs some time to bowl, and as soon as he got some overs under his belt, second innings he was back to the Kesh that we know, and he was fantastic, and he showed to be a real handful even for the Sri Lankan batters. So it's about, we understand that you have to be on top of your game here. You can't be, if you're a little bit off, and there's lots of examples. As I said, he was not at bowling as well as he could in the first innings, and therefore their total becomes a little bit bigger. Our fast bowling wasn't as effective because the ball wasn't reversing. Our deadly instinct when we have the tail in there wasn't there, and that extra 100-run partnership towards the end. There's a lot of things in the game that we didn't do well, which Sri Lanka was just better. And as I said before the test match, we rely on, when it's spinning in conditions like these, we rely on reverse swing as to be just as effective weapon, because we have the pace. But because of the wet outfield, reverse swing wasn't a factor, and therefore eliminated the threat we do have in our pace. So that was something we didn't plan for, and possibly something we need to really look at for Colombo. Yeah, look, when we face off spin in the net, it's a coach trying to throw some off spinners at you, but it's not even in the same quality as a Pereira. The shape that he has is a lot different than the shape that you can practice. You can hit 10,000 balls, but he bowls at a different shape. He gets beautiful drift, and especially today with the extra wind, the ball was drifting a lot, and if he gets that assistance from the pitch, it makes the variation really big, because one ball is going away from you and one is turning big in. So hopefully from the guys playing against him now, they can now, over the next week, go and practice a plan to counter that. You can only work out a plan if you face someone, and a lot of our guys hasn't faced him. So hopefully that will be better in the next test. I don't think that would have made a difference. We played a warm-up game which was a flat wicket. It didn't spin. So you have to give credit to Sri Lanka for, I suppose, doing that well. There's some learning in that for us to take, even when we're playing in South African conditions. the nets that we've been batting on has not been spinning in at all. So we could have come a month earlier. You know, if you're practicing on facilities that doesn't spin, you're not going to get what you're going to get out there. And I didn't think the wicket was that bad. I thought it was actually a decent test wicket. You know, it's obviously a lot more challenging to face spin, but there wasn't any demons in the wicket. So we're not at any stage are we blaming the state of the wicket. I'll just have to go and practice my tossing over the next week. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you always almost think worse than it is. And as I said, the biggest weapon that they had was their consistency. And I said that before the series as well. You know, consistency in spinners is what makes it, because you just have the ball to spin a little bit, and that's enough because you don't bowl any bad balls. So, yeah, I think we, more times than often, it was the ball that didn't spin as much as we thought it would that got us into trouble. But it wasn't easy. They didn't give you much singles to get off strike. You know, getting a boundary, you have to take a risk, and there's a 50-50 chance with that. So, you know, even myself batting in the first innings, I consistently felt like I need to try and put some pressure back onto the spinner, because if you just let them bowl, they're very good. So you need to make a play as well. No special instructions. Every batsman will have his own game plan that he's worked on for the last 2 months leading up to this series. You know, the guys had the footage of all the spinners. So every guy's game plan is different. There's not a team game plan. So whatever works for you, that's going to put pressure back on the bowler. But I think your first innings runs is the most valuable thing that you must have in the subcontinent. You know, it's going to happen if you play, whether Sri Lanka bat last or we bat last. The quality of the spin is going to get wickets on day 3 and 4 if Test matches goes there. So for me, the first innings becomes really important. And as I said in the post-match now, they scored 120 runs too many in the first innings. We had them 170 for 7. So there you should, Sri Lanka, you know, they get the tail out quickly, 30 runs. So if we got them out for 200, 220, the whole structure of the game would have changed. But we were very soft in that period. We let the tail enders pretty much boss the show. So we can only blame ourselves, and we need to make sure we learn from that quickly. Yeah, definitely. I think that I'm a big fan of taking away the toss. I think even if in South Africa it's the same, you'll still prepare the conditions the same way that you are preparing them now. You just make sure that you try and bring some balance. You know, I think the home conditions teams will still win the majority of the games, but I think you do even out a little bit more. I think over the last 2 or 3 years, away records have definitely gone down, and games are finishing a lot sooner than it used to. When I started playing Test cricket, 400s and 500s was happening quite regularly. So I'm not speaking just on subcontinent conditions. I agree, even in South Africa, games hardly reach the end of day 4 anymore. So I think that would be one of the ways that you can make sure that that balance is a little bit better. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it, so it's difficult for me to comment on it. Sri Lanka, as I said before, when you come here, it's a very, very tough team to play, because the spinners are as good than any other team in the world. It puts more pressure on all of us. If you're playing 6 batters in conditions that are not flat, whether it will be green or spinning, then it puts a lot of pressure on your top 6 to score the runs. And especially after a game now where we haven't scored the runs, that is something that us as a Brains Trust need to think about. You know, what's the best way that we can counter their strengths, and we'll have those conversations.